Welcome to the Cosmic Business Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Pallas, and this podcast is for soulful entrepreneurs who want to harness the cosmic power of astrology to elevate their message, unlock flow, and attract their best clients ever. Join me every week and get excited to discover how you can use the energy of the cosmos to get the business breakthrough you've been waiting for. All right, let's get straight into it this week because I have a few things that I want to say about one of the most important points to consider in your astrology chart when it comes to your personal brand. And I'm following on from last week's conversation with the wonderful Lauren White. We were talking about photo shoots and personal branding and taking your power back and becoming the more fully expressed version of you. And in order to get to that point, I think it's really, really important that you dive into these key parts of your birth chart to know who you are presenting as in the world, in both your personal life and in the world of business. So understanding your rising sign or your ascendant is going to give you a unique insight into how you project yourself into the world. And this is hugely valuable for entrepreneurs who are looking to establish themselves or enhance their personal brand. And it's the main place I'm going to look at when I'm talking to you about your messaging. If we're in session, a private session together, we are going to look at your rising sign because this is going to give us insight into, the way people see you, the way that people want to connect with you, the reason people come to you. I've talked in previous episodes about looking at your Venus as well because Venus is often that magnetic energy that brings people in. However, your rising sign or your ascendant is really key because it is that most personal point in your chart. This is where we're really finding out your style, your personality, the way that people will see you and the way that you kind of move through the world, right? We think, and I've explained this before, but the rising sign is like the car we're driving in. The destination being the sun sign. We're moving towards our sun sign, but the rising sign is the car we are driving in to move towards our full expression as the sun sign. So to backtrack, if you're like, what is she talking about? What is a rising sign and what does that have to do with my personal brand? Okay, a quick 101 on the rising sign. Your rising sign is determined by the time and place you were born. So the zodiac sign that was rising on the eastern horizon at the time you were born. This is that magical point at which the earth meets the sky. And this is in your chart. Now, you can be born on the same day at the same time as somebody else. So say I'm born on the Gold Coast in Australia at a certain time of day, and somebody else is born in London at the same time. However, the rising sign for each of us is going to be different because it's based on the place as well as the time, if that makes sense, because it's to do with where the sun was in the sky. That's going to give you a completely different chart. So for instance, personally, I'm born in the afternoon. That places the sun in the 9th house in my chart. But if I was born at the same time in London, I would have been born very early in the morning. So the sun would be at the bottom of the chart in a completely different house. That would rearrange my whole chart, give me a different rising sign. So it's really important not only to know the time you were born, but the place you were born. Those are very key things. I've talked about before, sometimes people don't know the exact time they were born. That's okay. Ideally, you know within the hour that you were born. So you can say, I was born between 10 and 11 a.m. However, the more precise you can be, the better your reading or your analysis of your chart is going to be. So try and get as accurate as you can on the time you were born. And of course, know the place you were born to because that makes a difference. So today we're going to talk about 5 key things to consider when it comes to your rising sign or ascendant and your business brand? First of all, first impressions. So your rising sign, also known as your ascendant, governs the first impression that you make on other people. So as an entrepreneur, understanding those qualities of your rising sign can help you control the narrative from the get-go. For example, a Leo rising tends to come across with this great confidence and charisma, and it makes them instantly noticeable in a room. So if you can align your brand messaging and aesthetics with the traits of that rising sign, you're going to make your first impression more impactful. You're going to be able to own those characteristics, those traits, that Leo energy. And this has been the case for many of my Leo rising clients. Once they understand, oh yes, I'm a Leo rising, that's why this happens when I walk into a room. Now I can own that side of myself, that more expressive side of myself, and use it in my brand. This is awesome. So think about that from the perspective of what first impression are you naturally making on people, and how can you amplify that in your business? And that takes us to the next point, personal branding style. Now, the aesthetics associated with your rising sign can really help inform the visual aspects of your personal brand. We're talking about colors, we're talking about logos, we're talking about just your general personal style. Because each sign has its own unique expression. It has its own unique color palette, vibe, symbols. For example, again, using myself, a Taurus rising might gravitate towards those kind of earthier tones, or those more kind of sensual tones and fabrics. And because I am a Taurus rising, I gravitate towards jewel tones, that like real Venusian stuff. And some Taurus rising may gravitate towards the more earthier style, and it depends on how much Taurus you have in your chart and what the other elements are at play. So this isn't the only thing to consider, but it can really help you understand how you want to come across. And I know for me, I also link it sometimes into tarot, and the tarot card gives me just a visual representation of the energy. So I know for my last photo shoot, for example, I was really leaning into the Queen of Pentacles energy to show me that Taurus kind of queen energy. And that's very much green, nature colors. That's what I wanted to come across. And if you've seen my photos, in my last photo shoot, there's a lot of green. And that wasn't all intentional. Some of that was just intuitive. And I was really gravitating towards that Taurus and that Venus connection at that time. So that's something to consider, because you might notice that certain colors work really well for you. And if you understand, oh, that's to do with my rising sign, you might be able to, again, amplify that. And I have a great podcast episode with the amazing Ariel Catalasan on style and astrology. I'm going to link to that in the show notes of this, but definitely check that episode out. We talk a lot about how to consider your personal style based on your rising and sun sign. So yeah, go check that out. But basically, this is going to help you to create a cohesive and authentic brand image. What element is your rising sign in? For instance, is it fire, earth, air, or water? And what colors come across through that? If, for instance, you're a fire sign rising, a lot of red might be coming through for you. A lot of red might be there. That's just an idea. It's not always red. It could be other fiery tones. If you're a water sign, maybe those kind of more watery colors really appeal to you, or those tones and that texture and that feeling of water really comes through. If it's air, what's coming through then? Is it that more lighter pastel-y type color? Is it more that you like prints? Because that's something that I know Ariel and I talk about in that style episode. Gemini risings might love a quote on a t-shirt or something like that. There's certain things that come across really strongly depending on the rising sign and the element of that rising sign as well. Third thing to consider, your rising sign also affects how you communicate and connect with your audience. So Geminis, for instance, known for their adaptability, known for their eloquence, known for being able to connect the dots and their sociability. They can effortlessly engage with different groups of people. They can get into a room and make contacts. So knowing the communicative strengths of your rising sign is going to help you tailor your messaging as well, whether that be through social media, through public speaking, or through your written content. You're going to be more effective and resonant with your target audience when you understand the qualities of your rising sign and what might be working for you. And again, another podcast episode I would refer to, or series I would refer to, is my Business by the Elements series. This can really set you in the right direction when it comes to thinking about your communication style and your content based on the most predominant element, which often shows up in your rising sign. For instance, because your rising sign has a really strong emphasis in the birth chart. So maybe you are a Sagittarius sun sign, but your rising sign is in Pisces. So yes, you have this gregarious Sagittarius sun, but you really want to be seen and communicating like a Pisces, in that compassionate, in that chameleon-like way that Pisces have of being able to connect with all different types of people, being able to show empathy, being able to show that expansive quality, because Pisces energy is very expansive as well. So how do you communicate with people? What is your rising sign telling you about your communication style? How easy it is for you to communicate and connect with your audience? And what are the best ways for you to communicate and connect with your audience? And I talk about this a lot in that Business by the Elements series. For instance, if you're a water sign, you're going to have that more emotional connection in the way that you communicate. The fourth point is networking and collaborations. When you understand the interpersonal dynamics of your rising sign, this can guide you in your networking and strategic partnerships. So, for instance, and this is a more simple example, I suppose, if you're a Libra rising, you're probably known for your diplomacy and charm. This means you might excel in creating those harmonious collaborations, and you'll be able to leverage that in your business. So if you know, okay, my rising sign is Aries, I need to work a little differently when it comes to collaborating, because Aries energy wants to do it on its own. It wants to be independent. It wants to push forward on its own. And it may be that you need to acknowledge that part of yourself in order to connect and network and collaborate and receive support in your business. You don't have to go it alone. That's just, if you're an Aries. There are other sign examples where understanding yourself and the way that you work and the dynamics of that rising sign are going to help you to collaborate. You're going to know your strengths based on that rising sign. You're going to know how you're coming across to other people and what you might be able to leverage in a collaboration with others. Okay, and the final point about understanding your rising sign and how it relates to your business and your brand is that your rising sign can offer you great insight into how you respond to challenges and stress, which is really important for branding during difficult times. So, for example, a Scorpio rising might tackle crises with intensity, with a deep strategic approach, turning challenges into opportunities for transformation. That's that Scorpio energy. So they love a crisis, or they don't love a crisis, but they really thrive in a crisis. Scorpio rising people can really move through those challenges and see the transformative power of that. If you have a different rising sign, for instance, maybe you have what's a sign I haven't mentioned yet? If you have a Capricorn rising, understand how you respond to challenges and stress. So Capricorn rising might be someone who is a really high achiever, is moving forward, and when they get a setback, they feel like they need to overwork to compensate for that setback. So understand that about yourself. Give yourself a little bit of grace and compassion, understanding what your rising sign is trying to do remembering it is the car we are driving in on the road to our destination, which is our sun sign, our purpose, our mission, as well as our midheaven. Listen to that episode 2 on the midheaven. But the sun sign is, that's like where you're going. The rising sign is the car that you are driving in to get there. So understanding the way that you're driving and the car that you're driving in, when you're presented with a roadblock, how are you going to navigate that roadblock based on the car that you're driving in? I don't know if this analogy is working for you, but really understand that rising sign and how it operates in challenge. That's going to help you align your brand's response to that challenge or adversity in a way that showcases your strengths, in a way that builds your resilience, in a way that allows you to have that grace and compassion for yourself. Okay, so by integrating all of these insights from your rising sign into your personal brand, into your business strategy, this is how you're going to create this more authentic, more compelling, more effective brand presence that's going to resonate more with your audience and align with your longer term vision in business, your entrepreneurial vision. I hope this has been helpful. If you want to take this further and really explore how your rising sign is showing up in your business and how you can amplify it in your messaging, I encourage you to book a call with me. The link will be in the show notes to book in. This is my specialty. This is what I love to do. I love to bring you back to your core messaging and really allow you to amplify what makes you you in business so that you can stand out, so that you can be heard, so that you can be seen, so that you can attract more of the kinds of clients you really want and expand your business in a way that feels really aligned and amazing to you. So until next time, I'd love to hear what your rising sign is and how you work with it in your business. Thanks for joining me on the Cosmic Business Breakthrough. If you'd like to learn more about what I do, head to sophiapalace.com or follow me at Sophia Palace over on Instagram. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'd love for you to take a moment and review the show if you found it helpful and share it with a few friends. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.